Ladies and gentlemen, today I am bringing you a massive update in the chess world. About a month ago, maybe about 3 weeks ago, Sergei Karjakin was formally handed a 6-month suspension from competitive tournament play, which he is currently appealing. But this suspension will serve him and render him unable to play in the candidates tournament in June of 2022 in Madrid, in Spain. So the person to replace him, according to the rules, has to have played at least 30 games in the last 12 months and has to be the highest rated player eligible on the May rating list. Ding Liren is that person, but was unable to get the games qualified. Until now. In the last 20-ish days, Ding Liren has played every single one of those games to qualify. First, he played a 12-round quadruple round robin against 3 other Chinese grandmasters. Then he played a 6-game match against Wei Yi, one of the prodigies of China, ranked number 3. And currently, he is playing a tournament for the qualification stage to play in the Asian Games against, I think, 7 other Chinese grandmasters. And so in this video, oh, look at that. Look at, someone's writing in Twitch live chat for some reason while we're recording for YouTube. Anyway, hi to that person. They're famous now. In this video, I'm going to take you through 4 of his games. These are incredible games. I mean, they give you beautiful insight into the level of preparation and the playing style and the fluid, dynamic, just abilities of Ding Liren. Honestly, this is just a treat of a video. Ding has now played 26 games, which means he has met the 30-game requirement. He's the second-ranked player in the world, which means he obviously qualifies. Ding Liren is also apparently the favorite to win the candidates, according to some reports. So, game number 1, this is back in the quadruple round robin. He's playing against Li Di, who I've made a joke that Ding Liren is the long-form version of Li Di. No, Li Di's a really talented player, I think a young guy as well. And Ding actually in this game plays a London, which is just rare. It's just rare to see a 2800 sit down for a 90-minute game and play the London. It's something we play all the time now, but let's see how Ding does it. Well, he does it in a very interesting way. He plays bishop g5. What? But he already played bishop f4. Why did he do that? Well, the thing is that this move is intending to not just pin the knight. What White actually wants is to play the move e4, and this pawn structure in some ways resembles a Rubinstein French defense. Like you say, Levy, what are you talking about? Well, e4, e6, d4, d5, and if this happens, this is kind of the same exact structure, right? Like, think about it. It's the same structure, just from a different opening. So, because White spends an extra tempo going for this plan, Black actually really should respond and deal with this pin, rendering the move e4 impossible. So then Ding just plays it like a standard London, but Black has a relatively passive position, and now Ding begins kind of the first, waving of the flag or the towel in front of the bull, which is the move a4. He's kind of instigating. A4 is like a boxing feint. You kind of like feint the jab, and they're like, oh god, like now do I react to it? Do I not react to it? If I don't react to it, he's gonna play a5, right? So what am I gonna do? I mean, if I play a5, I might be limiting the scope of my queen side, because maybe my plan is to play c5, but now that leaves a hole. So Li Di plays c5, Ding plays c3, and now here we have knight e4. Knight e4 is just a very direct attempt to solve all of Black's problems, first via this trade, and then, via whatever is next in the position. Ding now plays a5, though. So, and a5 is a very concrete issue Black absolutely should not take. That will ruin the pawn structure forever. White will then just bring in the rook and have the heavy artillery on the queen side. So castles by Black, and Ding brings the queen behind the pawn, and, well, I mean, if it's not clear yet what his strategy is, it's very much poking around at Li Di's position on that side of the board. Now, Black could lose the game, like, on the spot here. So if this knight moves this way, for example, a6 just traps the bishop. So that a-pawn throw out by a4, a5, a6 actually very powerful, right? It causes really concrete problems to Black. So for that reason, Li Di actually first takes this knight, so his knight can now not be taken anymore, and plays knight b8. Knight b8 allows bishop c6. So if you play a6 here, I'm going to go here, and now Ding Liren kind of runs into a wall. Now the pawn is on a6, but really serves no purpose. Black has almost no problems, and Black's game plan here is probably going to be trade the queen, and then even start expanding himself. So obviously Ding doesn't do that. He plays rook fc1, and now if Li Di plays the move bishop c6, well then we have takes, and my pawn is still here, so I can go here. So that's the difference. Now I will go queen a8. I will actually, no, I was going to say sack the queen for 2 rooks, but this is an even more beautiful tactic. And if you take my rook, I take your rook. If you take like this, I take this, your rook, and maybe your queen as well. So you would give the queen up so you don't get, don't lose a rook for no reason. But we have a6, bishop e2, b5, queen a3. So pinning the pawn to the queen, and then move knight d7. Now, the position is completely equal. Completely equal. So Li Di's done a great job, and this is what I mean. Like, this guy did not show up to just get blown off the board by Ding Liren, even if Ding Liren is kind of like the evolved version of the name. I made that same joke last video. I gotta stop. And now, this is like where the 2800 kicks in. Because, okay, you neutralize me here, so what? All right, this is why I love comparing like some like high-level chess battles to mixed martial arts, just because it really does feel that way sometimes. I mean, there is just so many layers of complexity to all this, right? So b4, Ding freezes the board completely. He says, all right, we're done here. Now, let's begin rotating our forces to the other side of the board. Li Di's game. He's like, all right, g5, let's go. g5, f5. Ding, I'm not scared of you, man. Like, honestly, I'm going to ruin your chances of making it to the candidates. g5, f5. The board completely changes direction. Ding has to now... Li Di has had, I think, of all the grandmasters, the best positions consistently against Ding Liren. He's really put him to the test. Look at this. I mean, he's just threatening to overrun him completely here. The knight is about to arrive on d3. Obviously, Ding can't have that. Rook f2, bishop b1. But now what? Right? Like, now what? Okay, Ding is defending, right? He's not just gonna lose this game. So what are we gonna have now? Okay, rook g7. Now Ding plays knight f1. It's not really clear what either side kind of wants and exactly how either side is going to break through. Like, it seems like they're both maximizing their position to the fullest potential. But then finally, Ding gets fed up and plays f4. f4 is a massive concrete decision. So that was always kind of his plan, when he built this all up. There's a reason, black really can't rush with this move. It's because of a tactical reason. Knight e2 would be protecting the pawn. So we have f4, and now Ding acts as if he literally was never attacked. It's so incredible how fast he turns this around. Rook f2, pawn takes pawn. He doesn't even take back. He jumps out, loses a pawn because both queens are hanging. So for a very brief moment, Ding is just straight up down a pawn, and then he completely abandons all this and the knight and goes that way. So he's giving up a knight because he understands that his king is completely safe. He wants to take this, and by the way, all this that he made Li Di do, he is now he's gonna go and beat him up for it. Right? So he gets c6. A couple moves later, he gets a6. And you'll notice here he checks to force the rook there, and now queen a6. Now you might think, wait a minute, there's queen h3 here. And the threat is rook takes g2. You're absolutely right. And Ding would have gone right back to that square, pinning the rook and paralyzing black. If king h7, of course, you always have bishop f5, and even rook e7. And then the pawn will promote. So that pawn that he made Li Di move there so many moves ago is going to be the problem of the game for a while. But Li Di, to his credit, is defending almost perfectly, sacrificing a pawn and just mobilizing everybody. The bishop, the rooks, the queen, both active. Ding has to find the only move, which is this. And it's right on the board. Why? Because f3 looks juicy, but there's no attack. And bishop takes h3, and one move here. Again, he has to find the move. Queen d6, and now queen e5. And not just one rook is frozen, so is the other one. The rook behind the rook that can't move, obviously can't move as well. It's a chess riddle. And Ding Liren ends up converting this game, sending it into a rook endgame, where his outside passed pawns are just going to be decisive. His king makes it to safety. He's up many, many pawns, and a two pawn up advantage in an endgame at this level is good enough, but one pawn up advantage in an endgame is also good enough because it's just winning. At the end of the day, all you need is one pawn. You can simplify everything down. Why is this winning? Because black is not in time to create the Philidor position. So normally when this, right before this pawn crosses to the 6th rank, the rook will stand there, and the second that that pawn moves, you go back around for checks. You don't have that time right now because I'm on h7 and my pawn is going. So, you know, you try to come around this way. I have check, I have g7, and I'm just completely winning. I also have checks like this to kick you off the file as well. So Ding Liren plays an absolutely like captivating game and gets a win over Li Di. The last round game from this event was against Xu Shengyu, and this game was just unbelievable. All these games were very interesting. This one was a Catalan, but Ding was on the black side of a Catalan. He usually plays it with white. So what is he going to do? Plays bishop b4 check. Here, probably he would have played bishop e7, which is a main line, just asking what this is doing here. But Xu Shengyu gambits the c4 pawn. Right, because the knight is pinned. And now he gets the bishop, but Ding is a pawn up. And Ding Liren has absolutely no intentions of giving that pawn away. You see, the Catalan is really problematic for white if black hangs onto the c4 pawn successfully. So Xu Shengyu can play, you know, b3 here, a4. He chooses to play b3. And Ding's like, dude, I'm keeping the pawn. Like, no. You gave it to me. Should have thought about it before you did. I don't care about this. The pawn's mine. Now, in this position, if white plays the move bishop takes d5 and just gets the pawn back right away, then Ding is going to castle and basically play a 3-on-1. So you notice that the queen side it's a 3-on-1 situation, which means that in the long run, it's going to be really difficult for white to deal with those pawns. You know, it's really not the same as the 5-on-3 on the other side, because a lot of those pawns are in the way of each other, and the kings are castled that way. The 3-on-1 on the queen side has a much higher chance of getting into an endgame and being a problem. So Xu Shengyu chooses to not take on d5 for a while, and finally he's like, I think I have to. And Ding plays c4, and all of this comes to life. Ding gives the pawn back, but gets the 3-on-1. Now, can he put this to use? You think this is going to be a game where he trades the queens, maybe trades a rook, slowly advances? Let's see what he does. Okay, let's watch how Ding does this. Okay, he throws in a bishop h3. Oh, okay. He's got bad intentions, right? He can't really push there. Xu Shengyu threatens to trap the bishop over there, and, you know, it's like that scene in Watchmen, you know? I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me. h5, oh my. Oh, that is not a move we were expecting. h5 is a problem, because the thing is, if you take this pawn for free, you're gonna lose your rook, right? So you can't take, but what do you do? Because I'm gonna take you. So Xu Shengyu decides to play rook fd2 and allow this. He could have played e6 here, apparently. Stockfish was offering up some... Oh, Stockfish was saying e6, hg, queen d6. Oh, my God. And then a fork. And, yeah, we would get queen d7, rook d7, g3 with 2 rooks hanging. And then rook d2 defending, and then takes. And Ding Liren has 3 pawns for the bishop. I mean... Shut up, Stockfish. Nobody likes you. Yeah, so Xu Shengyu obviously didn't find that, and instead went for just absolute pandemonium. So Ding Liren, I mean, look at what the heck is going on? There's a queen hanging, but you can't take it. You can't take my queen because I make a new one. So you can't do that. So the only move here is to check me and deflect my queen and to gobble the pawn. But in the time that you do that, I'm going to activate my rook, and white's king is a lot weaker than black's king. Okay, so Ding is now going to flip the game completely. He's no longer trying to win an endgame. He is now trying to win just a straight up attack on the king. He has the light square attack brewing here, and he's going to use a combination of the weak king and the weak pawns in the center to get a win. That's what he's going to try to do. So queen d3, queen d5, slowly trying, yep, I mean, this is going to be an issue now. And Xu Shengyu thinks that the king is going to feel a little bit safer when he's tucked in bed with the queen. Perhaps. Or he's in for a rude awakening as he's going to get booted around the board and the h-pawn has been lost, right? But if you look at the white position, it's kind of a nice little cluster of pieces. How on earth is Ding Liren going to pull it apart here? Well, the king is actually still completely safe, believe it or not. Even on b6, he is still completely safe. All right, so what is Ding? I mean, it's still completely safe. I told you, this game is insane. You can't trade queens. Don't trade queens, because then you allow white to get some pawns into the position. Okay. All right. Queen, this is crazy. G5. Finally, Ding's like, I gotta push a pawn. He takes on a6. I mean, this is like a joke. What? But Ding's pawn is going, and suddenly Xu Shengyu realizes he can't really do anything about it. So he sacks so that his queen and bishop cover the promotion square. The problem is that the king is just stretched thin here, and you can't simultaneously defend promotion and protect the king. So Ding escapes. Look at this. You can't even take the bishop because this is promoting. So some checks are given. Now Ding Liren's king decides that he's feeling alpha and runs up the board. I mean, this game honestly looks like a trolling, you know, like two guys just trolling us. But White's king ends up on the complete opposite side of the board, and the Black king was already threatening to go there as well. And Ding Liren wins like this. I mean, just like what? What is this game? And Ding Liren won that tournament. He won that tournament with 10.5 out of 12. 10.5 out of 12. 9 wins and 3 draws. Yeah. Now, the next game was nothing short of spectacular. This is the final game of his match against Wei Yi. Wei Yi and Ding Liren played 6 games against each other. Wei Yi is obviously an extremely tough opponent, and that's why their first 5 games were actually draws. But this one was Ding Liren playing a Catalan. It's a mainline Catalan, so not bishop b4 check. And now we have dc4. Queen c2 and Black plays a6. The idea is to meet this with b5, bishop b7, which is why White plays a4, but now Black finds a different way to put the bishop on the diagonal by playing bishop d7, bishop c6. As completely idiotic as this looks, it's actually, I believe it's the main line by far. White has a lot of options here. Bishop g5 is one of them, but now instead of bishop d5, queen c2, bishop e4, you know, queen c1, and then something, I think knight c6 might be theory here, or even h6. Instead of that, Wei Yi plays knight d7, and now Ding doesn't take the knight and doesn't play knight c3, plays rook d1, and here there are, again, like a few choices, but a5, I think we're already in territory of about 7 to 10 games ever played, if not less, including Aranyan Kramnik 2016, including Cheparinov, Nihal Sarin 2020. There's a game that they played online. So the idea of a5 is quite simple. You're just locking down the b4 square. However, you are now no longer ever going to get b5. So a5 is a very committal decision. Rook d1 is a move, you know, obviously intending that if the pawn ever moves, the rook is open. This rook will probably come here. Let's see what happens. h6, and now we take, and exactly all that has happened. Black plays queen e8 attacking the pawn. b3 defends the pawn. And yeah, I mean, White kind of has just a perfect position. Like, everything makes sense in the White position. The knight supports both the knight and the center. If the bishop ever gets traded, then c7 is getting bulldozed. And that's why actually oftentimes this happens. This is how White tries to make progress. And White is just basically what I like to call forever better. Honestly, just forever better. And it's really just up to how good the player with White is to convert this position. And how good of a defender Black is. So c5, knight df3, bishop d6. And Ding Liren plays a move that has really been popular in Catalans, which is the move h4. h4 has a lot of ideas behind it. First of all, it's just always good now. Really, it seems like to take flank space. Knight h2 is sometimes an idea. And also g4, g5. Like later on, you actually could attack here, which is not something we thought we could do 5 years ago in the Catalan. So cd4, queen d4, and again, the more stuff that gets simplified, the harder it's going to be for Black to defend the queen side, because White just has that activity there, right? So rook c1, I mean, Wei Yi is doing his best, okay? But now Ding Liren plays rook c4, and remember I just said you could go g4 here. You actually could do this. There is no rook c8 because takes and queen takes bishop, and then you could even consider g5 in the long run. Right now, that would lose an exchange to bishop a3, but I'm just saying, like, let's say, I don't know how to really waste the move here. It's a very tough position to waste a move, but like rook c2 and somehow pass back, g5 is absolutely an option. But rook c4, rook d8, and e4. e4 serves a purpose of kind of covering d5, you know, creating a nice getaway for the queen potentially. So knight e8, and now h5. h5 is stopping the Black position from moving, so he's not going to be able to move his g-pawn, and f6 will come with the price of the knight getting into the g6 square. And now queen b6. I mean, Ding is just dominating in the center, the queen side, and the king side. Knight takes h5 looks like it's possible. The problem is that it will come with the loss of this pawn. So now Ding has a 2-on-1. So literally everything that I'm telling you that White tries to implement in this game is coming true, and it's in the hands of probably the best Catalan player on earth. Unless Magnus tries to play the Catalan every day. Knight f6, and now we see the entire justification of the move e4, as Ding sacrifices the knight on the f7 square, and goes e5, and takes. Black, materially speaking, is still in the game, but structurally, as White has a 2-2, and Black has a split EB, GH, open king, problems on the queen side, problems in the center, Ding is winning. Ding brings the queen back to get a control of e5, centralizes the queen, and starts advancing on the queen side, kicks the queen out of the middle, but then Black knight comes back, a5. Effortless advancement into the black position, knight back to d3, knight goes to c5, attacking both weaknesses, rook drops back to d2 in order to go to e2 or b2, and that's exactly what happens. And Ding Liren wins this game with a takes b6. Wei Yi plays queen a8 here and resigns. I guess he just really didn't like his position. He just played queen a8, sat there for a minute, and was like, yeah, this is garbage, I'm going home. I mean, he's down a pawn, and nothing has improved in his position. I wouldn't be shocked if Ding played this game at 99% accuracy. This might honestly be like one of the greatest examples of how to play the Catalan in history. I'm not like, that's not an exaggeration. Ding did everything right. From h4, h5, kind of throwing that, that kind of message to his opponent that if you're not careful, you're going to run out of moves and I'm going to storm in, and using that pawn as bait. And then ultimately, all these moves spent taking this pawn, the move e4 allowed this. Everything Ding did made sense. Like, you have to study this game if you're a Catalan player. Incredible stuff. Truly incredible stuff. And he beats Wei Yi. And now he's playing this Asian qualifier where he's not even winning, actually. But yesterday he played his 8th game. So now if you do the math, 12 plus 6 is 18, plus 8 is 26. So he just played his 8th game. That's 26 games. And this is a game against Zhang Zhong, who actually, I believe, used to represent Singapore. So I guess he changed back to China. This is honestly just to show that, he played another individual and he did defeat him. I think this is from round 6. But in round 8, he played Wei Yi and they made a draw. This one was an isolated pawn position that shows kind of the power of the isolated pawn in a more active setup. So here, Black just is in a problematic situation because he's solid, but he's lacking space. And so he decides to solve his problems by trading, and Ding's like, okay, we can have complete symmetry. I have more development. You have difficulties protecting this pawn. So rather than losing your center pawn, which would make your position fall apart, you should lose the B pawn, which is what he does. Knight a5, and now Ding is just, we've seen tactical play from Ding throughout this video. Last game, we saw positional play, and in this game, we are going to look at how he deals with opposite colored bishops, where Black has some compensation in the form of, obviously, the bishop pair, which is what I said. But how is Ding going to win a position like this? We've seen him win tactical, fiery positions. Let's see. Rook c8. Knight goes to e5. You can't take this because one of Ding's favorite moves would occur here. First, he would go here, and now this is just a gorgeous move. Protected by 3 pieces, and yet the rooks bulldoze the e-file. So, he would just be getting in. So rook d5, he defends himself. Zhang Zhong, to his credit, really sent the game into a very annoying situation. Just opposite colored bishops and trying to lock down the white position. So how is Ding gonna actually, do anything here? Even though, counterplay is being created here on the G file, which looks kind of unpleasant. Rook h2. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to be passive. Now, if you let the Stockfish run here, it thinks that Black actually has a defensive fortress. It sees absolutely no way to win. Which means that humans would lose this if they are prodded in the right way. If you poke at their position in the right way. Oh. So Ding was like, I'm going to go a5. And Zhang Zhong was like, no, you're not. I'm going to go a5. And Ding's like, well, thank you. Now I actually have something to play for, right? So rook e4, rook e5. I'm going to get rid of your blockade. Okay, no problem. The a-pawns fly off the board. But now bishop b4. Rook back, rook a1. By opening the a file, you gave me something to play for. Takes, bishop back to d7. All right, now I'm centralizing, but now there's a difference. The position's changed, right? So How are we going to do this? King e3, king e4. Oh, you don't want me to move my g pawn. Okay, but now maybe that pawn's going to be a liability in the future, right? So, okay, now I'm going to bring my king back and maybe my rook. Haha! How are you going to defend your pawn? King, oh my. King g1, king h2. Rook e1, okay, bishop d5. Just waiting for black to maybe slip up, maybe make a mistake. No repetition of moves, no repetition. Computer still thinks it's equal. Computer still thinks this is a draw, but the computer's not playing in black shoes, all right? We're gonna keep bothering him, keep looking for ways forward. They haven't repeated moves yet, don't worry. Rook h4, wait. Levy, you just said, Levy, wait, what? This is just a draw, right? I mean, he's just gonna go bring his king. Well, what Zhang Zhang wanted to do here is he wanted to probably trade the pawns and get into a completely equal opposite colored bishop endgame. This was his idea. Here's the problem. This position, as close to a draw as it looks, still has a lot of venom in it and is not a draw in the right hands. It's not a draw in the right hands because white is able to split the pawns. So takes, something like this, right? I apologize. Not takes. You could take, but you could also just play f6 here. So what went wrong? Whoa, like how, what? And king d5 was the resigning move. Actually, I don't think he played king d5. I think he just resigned after e6, and then maybe they set their kings up on the squares to indicate that white won. So what happened? All right. Black apparently should have gone back this way and just left the position like this. Just had a more active king. Very instructive. Instead of that, he tried to liquidate. He thought this was also a draw. And I think the fatal mistake might have come here when instead of playing bishop e4, he should have gone here. And then f5, king e4. So active king would have drawn him the game. But, you know, low time and problematic situation on the board. And you're going to make mistakes. So Ding Liren is able to win games like this. This is not the most exciting game. All right, black defended for a very long time and did a really good job. What did Ding do? Constantly pose problems, harassed his opponent on the chessboard, not physically. And he still gets rewarded. And, I mean, you have to win games like this too if you want to be 2800. So Ding Liren wins games in crazy tactical fashion. A boa constrictor positional style. And in not the most interesting, not the most exciting of fashions like this one, but he wins. He just played 26 games of undefeated chess where he only gained 5 points. Now, if Karjakin's appeal is denied, Ding Liren is a candidate. According to the numbers, he's also a favorite to win it. It's pretty nuts that he just completed this. So congratulations to him. Apologies if you can hear beeping outside. There's a construction truck for some reason. It's going to get louder. It's getting louder. And yeah, it's crazy. I can't wait to see what the candidates holds. Congratulations once again to Ding Liren, the final candidate of 2022.